Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and today we're continuing with our ChiBi Let's Talk Lore series. Last episode we left off as the idea of killing Zhuge Liang formed inside Zhou Yu's mind, but as the ambassador who initiated the alliance between Liu Bei and Sun Quan, Lu Su quickly put an end to this idea by convincing Zhou Yu that since Zhuge Jin currently works for Wu, perhaps all they need to do is use him to persuade his younger brother Zhuge Liang to abandon Liu Bei and join them instead. This way, there will be no need for bloodshed. Zhou Yu relents and temporarily moves on from this issue as more pressing matters are at hand. The next day, Zhou Yu as the commanding general meets with all the other generals of Wu to form a battle plan as the main forces are ready to depart Chaisang and sail upriver to a position closer to Cao Cao's forces. At the meeting, however, Chen Pu, the second in command, is called in sick and sent his son instead. It turns out that Chen Pu, who is much older than Zhou Yu, is slightly unhappy to be named second in command under such a young and unproven commander. But no matter, as Zhou Yu is able to prove him wrong, unbothered, Zhou Yu laid out his battle plans and assigned generals to the respective roles. Leading the way are Huang Gai and Han Dan, who will lead the vanguard units. Following them are the 2nd Battalion headed by Zhou Tai and Jiang Qin. And then the 3rd Battalion will be led by Ling Tong and Pan Zhang, while the 4th Battalion will be led by Tai Shici and Lu Meng. Lastly, Lu Xun and Dong Xi will close up rank as the 5th Battalion. Additionally, Lu Fan and Zhu Zhi will act as the head of the military police to coordinate and supervise among the battalions. Seeing that Zhou Yu is organized, prepared, and confident, Chen Pu's son reports back to his father, who is faking the illness to avoid and reporting under Zhou Yu, and Chen Pu immediately felt the guilt that he is not taking part in this very essential war for the survival of Wu, and also impressed at how capable the young Zhou Yu has proven so far, so he pays a visit to Zhou Yu to formally apologizes, and as everything is set, the Wu army now sets sail for Sandaokou to make camp as they prepare to face off with Cao Cao. After making camp at Sandaokou, Zhou Yu finally has the chance to breathe and to turn to the Zhuge Liang matter, as he summons Zhuge Jin to ask him to mediate and convince his younger brother to abandon Liu Bei and join them instead. Zhuge Jin, who has not yet made a name for himself, eagerly accepts the challenge and sails to the small boat that Zhuge Liang is residing in, as Zhuge Liang has strangely refused to rest in Wu's main encampment on shore and instead opted for a little boathouse. As the two brothers serve different lords, they have not yet had the chance to catch up and chat, so when Zhuge Jin announced himself, Zhuge Liang welcomed him warmly. As they sat down to have tea, Zhuge Jin starts telling the story of the two famous brothers of old who served and died valiantly for the same lord. This prompted Zhuge Liang to guess the true purpose of his older brother's visit, so before Zhuge Jin can pop the question, Zhuge Liang jumps the gun and says, "Yes, of course I remember. I envy their valor greatly, and since we are both born a citizen of the Han Empire, we should definitely be serving together to restore our country. And no one's better at that task than my lord Liu Bei, who happens to be a relative to the poor emperor who currently is being held hostage by Cao Cao." This preemptive strike left Zhuge Jin speechless, as he drank his tea in silence and soon excused himself as his wit and ability to debate was no match to his brilliant younger brother. All Zhuge Jin could do is return to Zhou Yu and report back that he has failed, as Zhuge Liang saw right through him and asked him to join Liu Bei instead. Zhou Yu, unamused, asked if Zhuge Jin wants to leave them, but Zhuge Jin quickly bowed down to apologize and swore his loyalty to Sun Quan, as Sun clan trusted him with the job before he ever even proven himself. Zhou Yu then dismissed him, and now the idea of killing Zhuge Liang only burned brighter in his heart. So the next day, Zhou Yu invites Zhuge Liang over to the main camp to discuss their next steps. Once there, Zhou Yu compares to their current situation against Cao Cao to Cao Cao's campaign against Yuan Shao, where Cao Cao also had a numbers disadvantage, but was ultimately able to win because he was able to strike and burn down Yuan Shao's supply and food depots. Zhuge Liang agrees that indeed, if they are able to burn down Cao Cao's food and supplies, then the war can be easily won. Zhou Yu then asks, since Cao Cao is currently encamped in former Jin territory, which Zhuge Liang should be the most familiar with, perhaps it's best to have Liu Bei lead a force to raid Cao Cao's supplies. Now, of course, Wu will be willing to reinforce Liu Bei's small army with thousands of infantry if needed. Zhuge Liang thinks for a while and agrees, and then take his leave to make preparations. After Zhuge Liang leaves, Lu Su asks Zhou Yu why he picked such a dangerous mission as their first battle in this war. Zhou Yu answers, because it's the perfect mission to get Zhuge Liang killed. And at least this way, Liu Bei can't blame his death on me. And clearly, I didn't force him to take the mission. He said he could do it, so he better handle it. Unwilling to see Zhuge Liang foolishly head to his death, Lu Su takes a small boat and rows to Zhuge Liang's boat to check on him. And sure enough, Zhuge Liang is seen studying maps and making plans for the attack. So Lu Su asks Zhuge Liang what he thought about the mission. Zhuge Liang says, well, it's an incredibly difficult mission, but I feel like I'm the only one who can do this. Ever since I traveled south, I've heard little kids on the street sing songs about you and Zhou Yu. Confused what songs have to do about all this, Lu Su asks Zhuge Liang what he has heard. And Zhuge Liang answers, kids all sing that when it comes to defending in the south, no one's better than you, Lu Su. And when it comes to naval warfare, no one's better than Zhou Yu. But unlike the south, my lord Liu Bei doesn't have as many strategists, so I have to be skilled in infantry combat, cavalry combat, formations, sieges, defending, and naval warfare. So I can totally understand why Zhou Yu, who is only known for his naval combat, would assign me to this dangerous raid. And as you can probably guess, when Lu Su reports this back to Zhou Yu's jealous nature takes over as he tells Lu Su to inform Zhuge Liang that he will no longer be needed on this mission and that Zhou Yu himself will lead a force to raid the supplies. Hearing this, Zhuge Liang laughs and tells Lu Su, please make sure Zhou Yu doesn't go. I know Zhou Yu wanted to use Cao Cao's hand to defeat me or even kill me, but Cao Cao is a mastermind strategist and loves to burn other people's supplies. So how can he not defend his own supplies? None of us should go, as this mission is pure suicide. Our advantage is our navy. So if the first fight we pick is the land battle and we lose, it will impact the morale of all our units. For the sake of this war, please tell Zhou Yu to not go and instead focus on winning us a naval battle to kick off our campaign. Lu Su once again reports back to Zhou Yu, whose desire to kill Zhuge Liang now only grows, but he does relent and call off the raid on Cao Cao's supplies. Lu Su tries his best to calm down Zhou Yu by reminding him that their enemy right now is Cao Cao and that Liu Bei is our ally, and everything can wait until Cao Cao is defeated. Speaking of Liu Bei, it has been some time since Zhuge Liang left to secure this alliance with Wu, and with Wu's army now encamped closer to Xiakou, it seems like the talk has gone great. But no messenger has arrived back since Zhuge Liang's departure, so Liu Bei is largely in the dark about the state of the alliance. To find out more, Liu Bei sends out Mi Zhu with gifts to greet the Wu camp and see if he can touch base with Zhuge Liang to find out the state of the alliance. Yet when Mi Zhu arrives, Zhou Yu comes out to meet him, but refuses to allow him to see Zhuge Liang by saying that Zhuge Liang is currently busy. Instead, Zhou Yu asks if Mi Zhu can invite Liu Bei personally over to come over to the Wu camp so he can explain the details of the alliance to Liu Bei in person. Mi Zhu agrees and leaves, but little does he know, Zhou Yu, who is constantly worried how Zhuge Liang will one day help Liu Bei become a threat to Wu, is secretly planning to assassinate Liu Bei once he comes. Mi Zhu, who has no idea of this, reports back to Liu Bei, who is a little concerned, as basically no one has met or heard from Zhuge Liang since he left, but if an alliance was made, then it would be rude to not go, so Liu Bei makes plans to go as he hopes to cement this alliance and hopefully finally gets to see Zhuge Liang in person. However, both Guan Yu and Zhang Fei are a little concerned about their brother's safety, and both offers to come with him. Since Zhang Fei can be a little volatile and temperamental, Liu Bei tells him to stay behind and guard the camp and only brings Guan Yu. So they take a small boat and only 20 bodyguards and sail towards Wu's camp. Once there, they were greeted by Zhou Yu, who has placed 50 axemen at the ready, hiding around his own tent. Just as they sat down in the tent for a feast, Zhuge Liang, who happened to come ashore from his boathouse, noticed Liu Bei's boat docked there too. Shocked and worried that Zhou Yu has a nasty surprise planned for them, Zhuge Liang races toward Zhou Yu's camp. Along the way, he notices the abnormal amount of axemen surrounding the tent, which prompted Zhuge Liang to become extremely worried, and now he runs over to the tent to try to warn Liu Bei. But as he got a clear view inside, he noticed that Liu Bei has brought Guan Yu with him, who is currently standing right behind Liu Bei with a sword in hand. Immediately, Zhuge Liang becomes relieved that Zhou Yu, who valued his own life, would not risk dying here at the hand of Guan Yu just to try to kill Liu Bei. Instead of going in unannounced, Zhuge Liang backtracks all the way to Liu Bei's boat and decides to wait for them there. As the feast inside Zhou Yu's tent got underway, Zhou Yu started looking for opportunities to throw his cup, as that is the signal for the axeman to rush in and hack Liu Bei to death. But the presence of a long-bearded, red-faced bodyguard standing right behind Liu Bei, inches away from Zhou Yu's seat, started to worry him. So after a few rounds of drinks, Zhou Yu asks Liu Bei who this bodyguard is, and Liu Bei answers that this is none other than my sworn brother Guan Yu. Immediately, a cold sweat started to form on Zhou Yu's back as his head and neck went numb at the thought that the slayer of the famed Yan Liang and Wen Chou is standing inches away from him with sword in hand. At that moment, Zhou Yu decided to cancel the assassination. Instead, they just chatted for a little while. From Liu Bei's perspective, this feast was a bit weird too, as both Zhuge Liang and Lu Su, who acted as ambassadors between the two factions, are missing. So Liu Bei asks once again to see Zhuge Liang, but Zhou Yu refuses again, which only made the situation more tense for Liu Bei. Sensing that he might be in some sort of danger, Liu Bei excuses himself and proceeds to head to his boat to leave, where he was pleasantly surprised by Zhuge Liang, who tells him that if he had not brought Guan Yu with him, he would have surely died today at Zhou Yu's hand. Knowing that Zhou Yu is not faithfully committed to this alliance, Liu Bei begs Zhuge Liang to leave this dangerous place and return with him to Xiakou. But Zhuge Liang refuses and reassures Liu Bei that he'll be fine here, and more importantly, he needs to stay here to see this war through to ensure its success. So Liu Bei takes his leave, and Zhuge Liang prepares for yet another round of battle of wits with Zhou Yu. To find out what new traps Zhou Yu cooks up for Zhuge Liang next, come back tomorrow as we'll continue our lore series.